Okay. Hi, Kelly.
Hi. Hi, Jared.
This is so fun. I know like nothing about you.
Nothing. Not a single
Yeah.
thing.
So like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in San Francisco, California.
Nice. Like in San
I
Francisco?
did. Yeah.
Wow. What was that like?
Uh, people ask me that a lot, and there was just always a lot of things to do. like,
Yeah.
um, and I will say that I like the fact that it was so diverse because it really exposed me to a bunch of different cultures and different communities and stuff. So, uh, I didn't grow up in like a cookie cutter, like white household. Like I had friends who were Black and Russian and Asian and Native American and all that stuff. So lots of culture growing up as
Yeah.
well.
And like, I feel like people who know San Francisco now, it's like all like tech bros and like just entirely like rich white people. And like it
Yeah.
was so like weird and funky and like sort of like this like hippie paradise back then.
Yeah. So my mom grew up, my whole family is from there. My mom does not live there anymore. She moved because the price and cost of living and
Yeah.
all that. But like my entire family is from there, like at least on my mom's side. And so she grew up in like the summer of 69, like and
Nice. My mom was a hippie too. Like my mom wasn't like a full blown hippie, but she like loved like the Beatles and like
yeah.
Harry Nilsson and like she
Yeah.
has like and like well my mom kind of like ran off to Denver when she was like 20, which was kind of like sort of going out west and like, I
Yeah.
don't know. She did a little bit of that, but
Yeah. I wouldn't say my mom's a hippie at all, but she's more like, I don't know. My mom's really unique. I don't know. You can't label her. Like she's like kind of folky, country, like environmentalist, like just a mixture of it all. And but yeah, so she growing up, it was really cool, just the vibe there. And then yeah, like probably around I'm 35, so
okay.
around like 2000, it's just like when things started to change a lot.
Yeah.
And now like when I go back there, it's like everyone's a transplant, they're not from there, and price of living has gone up so much. I can't even,
Yeah.
there's no.
Yeah, it feels like it's like lost its soul a little bit, which is a
Yeah.
shame. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So that's
Although
where I.
I was there for a work thing like maybe it was like 6 months before COVID, and we met up with someone who was like an older gay man, and then his partner had like come to like the Castro in like the Harvey Milk time.
Yeah, my mom worked across the street when Harvey Milk was killed. Like,
That's unbelievable, right? And so I like kind of imposed like, but he was this amazing man who had like been there for the whole thing. And I was like, we were like eating dinner, and then I guess everyone was just gonna go sit. But I'm like, can you like give us a walking tour of like and just like let's go like take us
City
to a
Hall.
bar, like let's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he did, and he told us all these stories and stuff. It was incredible. It was really
Yeah.
cool.
No, I
Yeah.
love talking to my mom about that stuff because she'll be like, I remember the day that Harvey Milk and George Moscone like were killed. And she
Wow.
worked across the street from City Hall and like, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And she lived through the AIDS crisis. A lot of her friends died. And so
Yeah.
she tells me, stories about that. And so, and obviously like Vietnam and like the protests and stuff.
That's
So
wild. Okay,
yeah,
so like where are you now?
I live in Washington State right now. I used to live in
Oh,
in Redlands, though.
nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I was a military wife for a while and I
Okay.
got divorced. But yeah, I grew up in California. My dad's family is from Southern California, from like Orange County area.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, and I have like friends in Redlands and stuff. And yeah, like 2 years ago, um, yeah, well, 3 years ago, I got divorced. I worked in education. I finished my school year and I decided, I was going to start a new chapter and go back to California. And so I moved down to Redlands because I had a good friend there. My dad's family was from there, or like, Orange County.
Hmm.
And I was just kind of like, let's start over. So I moved down there, and then COVID hit shortly
Yeah.
after.
Oh
So
no, you moved. You like were like, hey, I'm gonna start over and like meet new people, and then like COVID
yeah, a few months
immediately.
later, COVID hit.
Wow.
Yeah. So I worked for the Redlands School District
Okay.
for a little bit. And yeah, COVID happened, and it was just a weird situation. And my initial like feeling when I first moved back to California was like, okay, I'm just gonna give it a year and kind of see how it
Hmm.
goes. But like I
Yeah.
said, COVID happened, and then I was like, well, it's not really a good time to like move if I wanted to, like, because I don't know, it just starting over, and it was just kind
Yeah,
of,
it's hard.
it was
Yeah.
just a weird experience. Like I liked being back in California, but at the same time, I had lived in Washington because my ex was military. There was a military base up here. So
Hmm.
like I missed like the trees and all the outdoorsy kind of stuff. And
Yes. Being from Pennsylvania, I'm like that's the thing I miss because when I was going to grad school in like central Pennsylvania at Penn State, I literally could like run out of my driveway and like within like a quarter mile, I could like jump on this like trail through these like state game lands.
mhm,
And you're just like running with like the branches over your head, like
yeah,
through a forest.
yeah,
And that's impossible to do here. Like,
yeah. You can go to
Yeah.
Big Bear, which I did that a
That's true.
lot.
That's true.
I
Yeah,
would go
yeah.
up to Big Bear and hike when I lived there, but it's still not the same like walking out your door and being like trees.
Oh, now I'm in the woods. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
So I just kind of like, and then I was in a relationship for a little bit, and then that didn't work out. And so I just kind of was like, okay, I think I'm gonna move back because I miss the trees
yeah.
and the outdoorsy stuff and being able to like, yeah, just so many trails and lakes and rivers and stuff. So I moved back. And I don't know, maybe I'll stay, maybe I won't. I don't know. Just kind of
Yeah.
uh I'm kind of a free spirit, like wanderer. So
Yeah.
um that's where I'm at for now.
I think
Didn't
that's cool. I think
Mhm.
something that like is funny to me is like so people from New York City and people from Southern California, like what they share in common is that so many of them like grow up there and then just never even consider living anywhere else. Like like old school New Yorkers are like people want
What?
to move here. Like why the fuck would I go
Yeah.
somewhere like like what am I going to move to Ohio? Like
Mhm.
and like, but like the amount of people I've met who like have grown up in Southern California all their lives, and like the thought has never even occurred to them. And I'm like, don't you know what? Like I've like, like studied abroad and like lived
Yeah.
different places and stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, I lived in Germany for a few years as well. So like
Oh, nice.
but yeah, I met people in Southern California who had never even left the state. I'm like, not
Yeah.
even to like Vegas.
Yeah.
It's like 3 hours from Redlands. And
It's
they're like,
well, yeah, it was really funny. I was like talking to someone, I think from one of the apps, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago. And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm from like her she lived in Riverside, I think, and then I was like, where did you grow up? And she said, oh, like Riverside. And I said, oh, okay, so you've pretty much lived here your whole life. And she's
"Mhm,
like, oh, no. And like she was very like insistent, like
mhm."
no. And I was like, oh, really? Like where? And she goes, I used to live in Orange County. And I'm
That's
like,
not that far.
that's the same place. She's like, no,
Yeah,
no, it's different. I'm like, yeah, I get that it's different, but it's still the same place. But
it's
anyway.
like an hour-ish,
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, yeah.
No, yeah, no, I lived in San Francisco. I went to college in a town called Chico,
Oh, yeah.
near Sacramento, kind of, and then
Hmm.
yeah, Washington and Germany, and then here, and then back California, and then
And then
here
back
again.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, so and I really like traveling, like solo travel, and um, like I did a road trip this past summer. My brother was getting married. He lives in Alabama. He went to Auburn
Oh,
University,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
so I just drove from Redlands down across the country. Decided to make a road trip out of it and hit up some national parks along the way. Stayed at some. Have you ever heard of a hip camp?
No, what is
Okay,
that?
so it's like Airbnb for the outdoors, and it's like really unique accommodations. Like you can rent a space if you have like an RV or a tent to camp on someone's land, or you can like sometimes people have cabins on their land. And
Hmm.
so I'd like stayed at hip camps. I stayed in a treehouse in New Mexico, like outside Santa Fe. And yeah, I just made a whole experience out of it. So
Oh, that's so badass. That's so cool that you're like have this like adventurous spirit. I think that's
yeah,
awesome.
no,
Yeah.
that's like my passion. I wish I could make a job out of it. Maybe someday. I
Yeah.
started a little blog, so
Nice.
maybe that'll turn into something someday. But
Yeah, keep doing it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I don't know. People said that like I should share my stories and stuff, so
Yeah.
I figured I'd
Oh, that's
try.
so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but so you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
I did. Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
grew up outside Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. I've never been
Huh.
to East Coast. Well, besides like South Carolina. That's probably as far as east I've been.
Yeah. I mean, but the South is its own thing, right? Like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Northeast is great. I feel like people from the West Coast, though, people who like if their idea of a city is like San Francisco now
Hmm.
or Seattle or something like
Hmm.
that, when they go to like New York or Philly or like even Boston, they're like, oh, it was like dirty. I'm like, yeah, because like real like working class people live
Yeah.
there. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a real city. It's not like these like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
I
gonna
know
offend people,
people.
but like fake cities. Like
Yeah. No, I had friends who I take to San Francisco, even just like they lived outside of Sacramento, and they'd be like, oh my God, there's like a homeless person talking to themselves. And I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
that's the city.
yeah, yeah.
Like, they're like, oh my gosh. Like, and you're walking, I don't know about Philadelphia, but San Francisco, you're like walk down the street. Sometimes you're like, is that pee or is that water? Oh,
Yeah,
you just kind of
yeah,
hop over it and you don't think anything of it.
yeah,
And some people are just like, what? Like, and you're just so immune to it, I guess.
yeah.
Like I live in Olympia, well, like right outside Olympia, Washington. So
Okay,
there's like a homeless population there too. And
sure. Yeah,
that's a conversation I have with people a lot too. They're like, aren't you scared of the homeless people? And I'm like, no, not really. Like I was like,
yeah,
I mean, I feel bad. And like I wish, there were more resources or, for them, but like
yeah.
it's not, it doesn't scare me or I don't feel out of my comfort zone because of
Sure.
it. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So what so you're dating right now because we're on the
yeah,
same.
yeah. I've been on
Yeah.
one date in the last year. I got out of a relationship in
Uh-huh.
April and I have been on one date. So technically you're my second date.
Hey, lucky me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just, yeah, I've done a lot of the last, like the pandemic kind of just put a lot of things in perspective and just did a lot of inner work and
Me
personal development.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like what am I doing with my life? What are my goals? Like how can I improve myself as well?
Hmm.
Because I've always felt like I majored in child development and psychology, and like I always, you know, I don't know, was aware of certain things, but like I guess I didn't really dig too deep into it until the pandemic really happened. And so I've just been
Got it.
mission to like just improve myself and continue
Yeah.
growing and stuff. So
Oh, that's so cool.
especially after a divorce, so
Absolutely. Yeah.
just learning like what I want and what I don't want and what it was very emotionally abusive. So also just like
Hmm.
learning about boundaries and with others, like in relationships and also friendships and stuff. So
Yeah. I feel like
yeah.
that's the hardest thing in the world. And like, why don't we somehow like teach people that more?
Yeah.
Like, because like, like I've, like I certainly have like a lot of like people pleasing and like codependent stuff and like just so many people like and
Yeah.
even like I work with college students and all the time I'm like, oh, it sounds like you need to have like a boundary setting conversation with like your friend about his drinking behavior or
Hmm.
your roommate about like blah 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 or your partner about them wanting to see your location on your phone every minute or
Oh my
whatever it is,
gosh.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a real thing. So anyway, it's really interesting. Um,
Yeah,
but Kelly,
definitely.
so I know Leanna has told me like I have a hard cap at like 15 minutes because we have
Yeah.
to like jump on an interview.
Yeah.
Um, but this was really fun. I don't know, like, was this fun for you?
Yeah, it was fun. Totally.
Okay.
I like it. I'd like to
Yeah.
get know you better. I don't know if that's something if that's something you'd want to do later
Yeah,
on or
let's do
think.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
like, I don't know. Yeah. So like hit me up and we'll chat or something.
Okay. All
All
right.
right.
Sounds good.
Thanks for being my Zoom date.
You're welcome.
All right.
All
Have
right.
a good rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Bye.